They laughed when the room was loud and your name was quiet. Funny thing about noise, it hides fear. Then someone stood up for you, right in front of everyone. Calm, precisely unforgettable. Now watch their smiles crack. Because truth doesn't shout, it lands. And once it does, panic starts searching for paperwork, witnesses, proof, evidence. They don't fear lies anymore. They fear what's already been said and can't be taken back. Silence. It's a funny thing, isn't it? People think it's empty, harmless, like a blank canvas, but really it's a trap. Silence can protect you, hide you, make you invisible while the world spins its petty games around you. You think no one's noticing, that the whispers and glances are just background noise, and for a while, maybe it works. You sit there, quiet, careful, calculating, and the room thinks it owns you. But silence isn't weakness. Oh no, it's a stage, a setup. And the joke is, everyone loves to underestimate the quiet ones until the quiet ones speak. When someone steps into your corner, someone decides to speak up for you in the chaos of that crowded room, the rules shift. The air changes, subtle but electric, like a flickering light before the storm hits. People who thought they were untouchable suddenly glance sideways, smiles faltering, nerves fraying at the edges. They didn't see it coming. They expected silence, compliance, a nod and a quick smile to patch over whatever cracks existed. Instead, someone dared to pierce the veil, dared to give voice to what everyone else was too timid to admit. And that's when the panic starts. Not the big, loud, crashing kind of panic, but the quiet, creeping kind that claws at the chest, that makes you check your words, your proof, your alibis. Funny thing about truth is it doesn't need a spotlight. You don't have to scream it from the rooftops for it to make a mark. One calm declaration, one steady voice defending another, is enough to unsettle the entire room. And the room feels it immediately. It's like dropping a pebble into a still pond and watching ripples touch every unsuspecting corner. Every confident smirk, every whispered accusation, every meticulously built story starts to wobble. People lean in, listening, searching for cracks, trying to understand how the quiet, the unnoticed, suddenly has champions. The person who spoke up becomes a force by association, a weapon made of words, timing, and courage. They didn't raise their voice to shout, didn't shout to control, didn't control to dominate. They simply reminded everyone that silence can hold power, that the quiet ones can choose when the mask slips, and that no matter how carefully you've hidden your intentions, one well-timed defense can make the whole room stop and rethink, hesitate, scramble. And the most delicious part, the truly intoxicating part, is watching the scramble begin. Because panic is contagious. It doesn't matter how carefully the guilty thought they'd covered themselves, how meticulously they gathered their so-called evidence, how polished their stories were. When someone else dares to speak the truth in front of everyone, suddenly the rules flip. Suddenly, everyone is searching for confirmation, justification, proof. Suddenly, silence is no longer protection. It's a reminder of what they tried to bury, of what they underestimated. The room's energy shifts, subtle but unmistakable. The quiet ones notice, the loud ones stumble, and the person who spoke up, they smile just a little, because they know the chaos they've sparked isn't loud or messy. It's precise, it's surgical. It cuts through the lies, exposes the cracks, makes the guilty squirm without a single raised voice or dramatic gesture. Just one truth, calmly spoken, echoing louder than any shout could ever manage, and the game changes entirely. One voice. That's all it takes. One voice standing where everyone else hesitates, daring to pierce the comfortable murmur of agreement and polite avoidance. The room is full of actors, each playing their part perfectly, smiling, nodding, whispering, pretending that nothing matters except the illusion they've crafted. But then someone steps forward, and suddenly the illusion cracks. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shout. It simply reminds everyone that reality doesn't care about your rehearsed lines, about the roles you've perfected, about the careful distance you've kept from truth. One voice can shift the entire room because people forget that power isn't in volume. Power is in conviction, in timing, in knowing exactly when to tip the scales. It's funny, isn't it? How a single word, delivered with precision, can rearrange alliances, make whispers grow louder, make confident smirks falter. You see, people think influence requires charisma, wealth, intimidation. They don't realize influence often comes quietly, stealthily, like a shadow stretching across a sunlit wall. And when that voice rises, even gently, defending another, supporting what's right, the room feels it immediately. Every eye turns slightly, curiosity mixed with fear, because they weren't prepared. They never prepare for truth served calmly. They prepare for noise, for chaos, for spectacle. Not for the meticulous, devastating power of clarity. The person who speaks is a puzzle everyone suddenly wants to solve. Who dares? Why now? What do they know that the rest of us don't? Questions ripple through the air, unspoken but heavy, thickening the tension until it feels almost physical. And the best part, the delicious part, is that no one can stop it once it starts. The first ripple becomes a wave, subtle at first, creeping, lapping at the edges of carefully built facades. The room is forced to react. Someone has lit a fuse with a calm tone and a single declaration. And everyone else, everyone else, starts to fidget, to whisper, to adjust their posture, their expressions, their strategies. They didn't see it coming because they forgot one simple rule. Courage can be contagious, and one voice can summon a storm. Imagine the scene. The quiet murmurs of the crowded room, the confident postures, the invisible hierarchies, all suddenly destabilized. And it's not the loud ones who cause the tremor. It's the steady, unnoticed presence that reminds everyone else what they were too afraid to say. You can feel the panic starting to creep in, subtle, insidious, infecting the minds of those who thought themselves untouchable. Evidence is rifled through, alibis reconsidered, stories rewritten in real time as the room struggles to process a reality it wasn't ready for. All because one voice dared to exist where silence was expected. And the irony, the person who spoke didn't do it to dominate, didn't do it to humiliate, didn't even do it to win. They did it because it was the right moment, because someone had to, because the balance had shifted in their favor, without anyone noticing, until it was too late. The room can scramble. They can hunt for proof. They can panic. They can't erase the fact that the shift has happened. One voice has already changed everything. Public defense. Such a strange concept, isn't it? People act like it's a simple gesture, a polite nod to fairness, a fleeting acknowledgement in the middle of 1,000 meaningless words. But when it happens, when someone actually stands in front of everyone and stakes their voice in your corner, it's electric. It's a spark in a dark room, sudden and undeniable. And it's terrifying for those who thought they controlled the narrative. Because the thing about truth spoken aloud is that it doesn't need amplification. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't ask permission. It just lands, precise and cold, and everyone feels it, whether they're ready or not. Imagine the room. The air thick with expectation. The kind of tension that makes people glance at each other, trying to guess what will happen next. Confidence is a fragile mask, and when someone defends you publicly, that mask begins to crack. The smug faces that were so carefully painted begin to twitch. Smiles falter. Words start to stumble. The power dynamics that seemed untouchable moments ago start to wobble under the weight of a simple act. Someone dared to speak truth where lies had been rehearsed for so long. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's just enough, like a shadow stretching across the polished floorboards, reminding everyone that control is an illusion. And panic. Oh, the delicious, creeping panic starts its slow, insidious crawl. It doesn't roar. It whispers. It tangles itself in the minds of those who thought they were untouchable. Every gesture, every glance, every carefully constructed alibi suddenly feels fragile. They hunt for reassurance, for proof, for some kind of confirmation that the person defending you isn't enough to unravel all their plans. They start to second-guess themselves, the very foundations of their confidence trembling, because the room has shifted in a single instant. Someone else's courage has become a weapon, subtle but lethal, slicing through the air with surgical precision. And you watch. You don't need to speak. You don't need to cheer. You simply feel the power of the act and the ripple it creates. The room reacts in ways that are almost theatrical, like actors realizing the script has changed mid-performance. Allies glance around, wondering if they too should rise, should speak, should defy the invisible rules they had once obeyed. Enemies squirm, trying to grasp at control that no longer exists. The tension is almost tangible, a living thing crawling across every table, every chair, every pair of eyes that had once looked at you with indifference or disdain. The person who dared to speak becomes more than a defender. They become a catalyst. They don't just protect, they provoke, awaken, destabilize. They show the room that silence isn't safety, that lies aren't permanent, that carefully constructed illusions can be pierced by a single act of courage. And the panic that follows is unavoidable because the room is forced to reckon with its own fragility. Evidence becomes a desperate crutch. Witnesses are scrutinized. Excuses are invented, all while the calm voice that started it all continues to exist, precise, deliberate, and untouchable, reshaping the energy of the entire space without a single shout or dramatics. Panic. Such a delicious, unpredictable thing. It doesn't arrive like a storm with thunder and lightning. No, it slinks in quietly, creeping through the cracks, infecting the minds of those who thought they were untouchable. It begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, a twitch in a smile, a hesitation in a step, a faltering word in the middle of a rehearsed sentence. And then, slowly, beautifully, it spreads because panic is contagious. Once it finds a foothold, it ripples outward, toppling confidence like a line of dominoes. And the more carefully someone has built their little world of control, the harder, the more satisfying it is to watch it wobble. Funny thing is, the ones who panic first are always the loudest, the proudest, the smoogest. They've been running the show, orchestrating the lies, measuring every glance and every whisper, thinking themselves untouchable. But then the unexpected happens. Someone dares to speak up in defense of another, right in the open, with no fear, no hesitation, no hidden agenda except truth. And suddenly, the floor beneath the proud ones begins to shift. Their confidence, so carefully cultivated, begins to crack. They start checking their stories, scanning the room for witnesses, questioning the timing of every word they've spoken. Panic doesn't scream, it whispers, it coils, it digs into their nerves, making them stumble without anyone touching them. The beauty of panic is in its subtlety. It makes people doubt themselves, doubt their allies, doubt the very reality they thought they controlled. Eyes dart around, conversations stutter, excuses are clumsily rearranged. Evidence is hunted with fevered desperation, but it never quite satisfies, never quite calms the trembling that has begun. Because when someone speaks up for you, publicly, courage becomes a weapon, and panic becomes inevitable. It doesn't matter how well prepared the guilty think they are. The act alone, precise and fearless, is enough to send ripples through the carefully constructed world they inhabit. And the room itself seems to notice, responding almost instinctively to the shift. Those who were silent, those who waited in the shadows, now lean in, curiosity and fear mingling, watching the unraveling unfold. Every gesture, every glance, every whispered consultation adds fuel to the fire. Panic grows not because the truth is loud, but because the truth is undeniable. And denial is a fragile thing in a room full of people who were counting on silence to protect them. It's a delicate chaos. The guilty scramble, but the scramble is messy, uncoordinated, visible to everyone who knows how to watch. Panic exposes weakness, and weakness invites further scrutiny. Those who thought themselves untouchable now stumble over their own defenses, searching for proof, searching for allies, searching for a way to stabilize what has already shifted. And yet, nothing can restore the balance. Panic doesn't ask for permission. It simply spreads, consuming confidence, shaking facades, and rearranging power in ways no one expected. Evidence. Oh, the desperate hunt for it is a sight to behold. People cling to it like lifebuoys in a storm, thinking it will anchor them, protect them, keep the chaos at bay. They search through files, messages, receipts, anything that can serve as proof that their carefully constructed version of reality still holds. Funny thing is, they don't realize that evidence is only powerful if you truly believe it will save you. Panic has already set in, and once panic takes root, evidence becomes less of a shield and more of a placebo. It's a frantic ritual, a performance of control for anyone watching, because deep down, they know that the truth spoken in front of everyone is already beyond their grasp. The room becomes a theater of paranoia. Every document is examined twice, thrice, a magnifying glass hovering over words that once seemed harmless. Witnesses are questioned, alibis reconsidered, timelines reconstructed in the hopes that a single piece of evidence might tip the scales back in their favor. And yet, no matter how meticulously they search, no matter how cleverly they arrange, it feels insufficient. That one voice, calm, fearless, public, has already shifted the energy of the room. Evidence, once a source of power, now feels like sand slipping through their fingers. They clutch at it desperately, hoping to stabilize a narrative that has already begun to crumble. And the irony is delicious. All the preparation, all the careful plotting, all the backroom deals, none of it can undo what has been said aloud. The truth has teeth, and it bites silently but effectively, gnawing at their confidence, unraveling their control. Evidence becomes a desperate, almost comic, ritual because it is always reactive, always late to the party. It can erase the courage of the one who dared to speak, the ripple they've created, the panic that now courses through the veins of the room. The guilty scramble, but it's too late. Evidence is no longer a shield. It's a mirror reflecting their own fragility. People forget that evidence only matters when the world around it can be controlled. But once a single truth is spoken publicly, control is an illusion. Panic spreads faster than facts, faster than documents, faster than any defense they could muster. And in that panic, the hunt for evidence becomes almost theatrical, a frantic dance of desperation, each movement revealing more about fear than about the facts themselves. The guilty act, as if they are the conductors of their own symphony, but the notes have already been rearranged by courage, by timing, by a single act that cannot be undone. Every glance becomes a calculation, every word a potential misstep, every document a fragile lifeline. And yet, despite all the frantic searching, nothing can restore the order that has been disrupted. The room feels smaller, tighter, heavier with tension, because once someone speaks up for another, evidence is no longer enough to protect the guilty. It is reactive, desperate, and always lagging behind the momentum of truth. Panic doesn't wait for proof. It moves ahead of it, reshaping minds, exposing cracks, and ensuring that the hunt for evidence is never quite enough to reclaim what was lost. Once spoken, truth becomes a living thing. It doesn't politely wait for approval or consent. It doesn't care about hierarchy, reputation, or carefully constructed facades. Once it's out there, it moves on its own, slipping into corners, seeping into minds, lingering in the spaces where lies once ruled. People think they can control it, contain it, bury it under mountains of excuses and evidence. But truth doesn't need their permission. It just exists, quietly, inevitably, like a shadow that refuses to disappear. And the ones who once thought themselves untouchable suddenly realize the rules have changed. Whether they like it or not, there's a particular kind of terror in watching someone scramble after words that cannot be unsaid. The room feels electric, charged with the unspoken acknowledgement that nothing can reverse what has already landed. The person who spoke, calm, deliberate, precise, becomes almost untouchable, not because of loud gestures or threats, but because their courage has created a space where truth itself reigns. And panic, delicious and relentless, begins to spread among those who counted on silence to shield them. They dig, they probe, they hunt for confirmation, desperately searching for any shred of control, any proof that can reclaim the illusion they had so meticulously built. Funny thing about truth, it has a way of bending reality without raising its voice. People who tried to manipulate, to twist narratives, to hide their intentions, now fumble, caught off guard by something they underestimated, the permanence of a spoken word. It echoes in the room like a ghost, haunting every corner, every glance, every calculated smile. And the guilty, they flail, trying to reconstruct order, trying to find evidence, trying to convince themselves that what was said can somehow be erased. But it cannot. The moment the truth is spoken, it becomes a force that cannot be bribed, bargained with, or silenced. And the irony is exquisite. Those who panic the most, who clutch at proof and plead for confirmation, are the ones most exposed. Every desperate attempt to regain control only illuminates their fear, their fragility, their own complicity. Meanwhile, the one who stood up, the one who gave voice to what was ignored, moves through the room untouched by the chaos, untangled by lies, empowered simply by the act of speaking. The ripple spreads, subtle at first, then undeniable. Power shifts quietly, almost surgically, but with irreversible effect. The hunt for validation, the scramble for evidence, the flailing attempts to reconstruct a narrative, all of it is futile because truth does not negotiate. Once released, it forces recalibration, forcing even the most confident to stumble, forcing the quiet to notice, forcing the guilty to confront the fragility of their illusions. Panic spreads faster than strategy, faster than logic, faster than documents, because people are reacting to courage and clarity, not to proof or performance. The spoken word becomes a living weapon, unseen but effective, precise and terrifying in its simplicity. The room's energy shifts in subtle, delicious ways. Confidence erodes where it was once ironclad. Silence. Once safety is now complicity. Lies, once armor, are now thin, brittle shells. And the one who spoke. They simply exist, a reminder that once truth is unleashed, no amount of evidence, no amount of manipulation, no amount of panic can put it back in the cage.